We're live in Abuja, capital of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Good evening to you in Nigeria and around the world. You're watching Politics on Sunday. I am Femi Akonde. Today we'll have another interesting political conversation. As you are aware that the EFCC, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, has been the most prominent anti-graft agency in the country. Well, this is also because over the years, its operations and activities have been heavily scrutinized by Nigerians. Not everyone sees reason to give the EFCC its flowers. Rather, many criticize its mode of operations, or some say the anti-graft agency is just a tool in the hand of the government of the day, or any government of the day, to witch hunt and prosecute perceived political opponents. But lately, under the leadership of Ola Olukoyede, the EFCC is prosecuting the former CBN governor, Godwin Emefiele. The EFCC also launched an operation against Bureau de Change operators. People are believed to be responsible for the falling Naira price. Well, the latest also that has put the EFCC under the spotlight is the prosecution of Idris Okuneye, popularly called Bobrisky. There has also been the investigation of some politically exposed persons, former governors, and top government officials. In the first 100 days of Ola Olukoyede as the chairman of the EFCC, the commission says it recovered more than 70 billion naira, also received 3,325 petitions, and secured convictions of 747 suspects. This success was recorded between October 2023 and January 19, 2024, as outlined in an EFCC document titled Operations and Recoveries. Well, I have in the studio the right person to talk about the EFCC. He's the Director, Public Affairs of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Welcome to the studio, sir.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
Yes, good evening. Let's start with what's been trending about the EFCC lately, and that is with the prosecution of the popular cross-dresser Idris Okuneye. I watched the Micon podcast where a prominent human rights activist, Chidi Odinko, accused the EFCC of just witch hunting him, and he's even saying that prosecuting him for mutilation of the Naira is not the prerogative of the EFCC. Rather, another law enforcement agency should have been allowed to do that.
Well, thank you for that question. Idris Okuneye was arrested based on the intelligence that we received concerning him spraying and stamping on Naira notes at a social event. And based on that, he was invited to the EFCC, and after the investigation, he was arraigned in court, which is the duty of EFCC to investigate and arraign suspect of economic crime. As the situation panned out, he pleaded guilty to the charge, and then the judge reserved judgment till April 9 for judgment. Having said that, regarding the comment by Chidi Odinko is a respected voice in the civil society realm. So he has the liberty to express his view concerning any situation in the country, and I respect his view. But if you actually read what he said, he was not complaining whether the EFCC had a case against Idris or not. He was saying that the Idris matter was trending over the power tariff hike situation. That was his quarrel with the EFCC.
He also said it's an abuse of power by the EFCC.
Yes, he was claiming that the EFCC has abused his power by going after Idris. I think Odinko didn't read the CBN Act, because the Section 21, Subsection 3 of the CBN Act made the activity of Idris a criminal offense. It's an offense under the law for you to spray or stamp on the Naira. And the EFCC, by law, is given the power to enforce all economic and financial crimes under the Nigerian law.
So how many Bobriskies now is the EFCC willing to prosecute? Because on the social media, there is a trend already of these Naira mutilation. You see at parties, people spraying Naira notes and all of that. And people are beginning to say that if the EFCC wants to toe this part, this might be a distraction from the bigger picture?
No, I don't think the issue should be about Idris Okuneye, really. What the EFCC has done basically is to send a force, because every Nigerian should be worried about the way we treat our currency, the way we spray currency, the way we stamp on Naira. I don't think there's any other country around the world that treats its currency like that. And it is something that we want to correct, because the law does not allow it. The fact that the law has not been enforced over the year does not mean that if EFCC now decides that it is time for us to actually go out and enforce the law, that you are doing the wrong thing. From the reception I've seen, all the commentaries that I've read on the social media and even the mainstream media, I think 80% of those comments support what the EFCC has done, because all of us believe that something should be done about the way we treat the currency, the Naira. And before Bobrisky matter, I think there was another Nollywood actress that was also arraigned and convicted. And we believe that the more we take on some of these so-called celebrities, the message will get to all across the country that it is not right to treat our currency the way we treat it.
So in the coming days, should we expect the EFCC going after some of these influencers and celebrities who are in the habit of mutilating the Naira?
I wouldn't say we are going to go after influencers. We're not targeting a special segment of the population per se. We are just enforcing the law as it is. And it cuts across whether you belong to the upper echelon of society, whether you are in the banking sector, whether you are an Hollywood star or not. If you abuse the Naira, you commit offense, and if we have the evidence, to go after you, we will go after you. In fact, the Commission has set up a special task force across all our zonal commands and headquarters to deal with issue of abuse of Naira and forex malpractices, and they are making waves across. They are making arrests and sending people to court for prosecution.
Okay, let's talk about the former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele. The EFCC has filed fresh charges against him, and he will be arraigned in court tomorrow. That's on Monday. Now, where did all of these charges come from? These fresh charges, is it from the report submitted by the special investigator appointed by President Bola Tinubu to look into the books of the CBN?
No, there are now two charges. First of all, there was a charge before the FCT High Court for which he was arraigned. At the first instance, it was a 6-count charge, which eventually was amended to 20-count charge. That trial is still ongoing, but this is a fresh arraignment that will happen in Lagos. What's happened in law enforcement is that the fact that the charge was referred against you in a case does not mean that if the Commission has further evidence that they cannot bring additional charges against you, which is what is panning out now. So we simply have fresh information that we want to charge him for. And the essence of doing that is that if you file a charge, for instance, the matter in Abuja is a money laundering charge. If you have other evidence that you want to see, probably you want to recover proceeds of crime, and that information is not before the court cannot give you what you didn't ask for. So we simply have fresh evidence that we want to take on. That's why we are arraigned.
So this fresh evidence now, is it connected with the report of that special investigator appointed by President Tinubu?
EFCC is not working solely based on the report of the special investigator, but that can be a basis for further action by the EFCC.
You have seen that report? EFCC has seen
Definitely, the EFCC has access to that report, but we are not working solely on the strength of that report. The Commission has the power to generate its own investigation.
Because, the statement from the presidency says, with the conclusion of that assignment given to Mr. Jim Obaze, all appropriate law enforcement and regulatory agencies are already conducting follow-up action. So that's what I'm asking now. What's the EFCC's follow-up action in this regard?
I can't come on television now to start telling you a secret of trade. I've told you that we have access to the report, and we have started with a fresh charge against him. Where that is going to stop, I can't tell you now, but we're on top of the situation. Okay,
we also saw the EFCC in trying to stay on top of the situation. Now, you clamped down on Bureau de Change operators because it was believed that the activities also further worsened the state of the Naira, the status of the Naira against the dollar. But some people have said that it appears as if you're going for the low-hanging fruits. Of course, we know that the activity impacts the Naira, but the biggest culprits are the commercial banks, and it seems the EFCC is looking the other way when it comes to tackling these people operating in the money deposit banks.
I wouldn't agree with that submission. I've told you that the Commission, the onus of the Commission is to enforce all financial and economic crimes law. And I quoted a section of the CBN Act which does not allow for you to misuse the currency. In fact, what they are doing is currency racketeering. If you don't have a license to trade in forex, it's illegal. Most of the bureau de change operators that you're talking about don't have the license to engage in financial transactions, and which was why the EFCC moved against them. Those who have the genuine license to operate, we are not after them. The CBN also allocates forex to BDCs, and those ones generally have license to transact in forex. But if you don't have the license and you're doing legal business and bringing pressures on our currency, the commission can move against you.
And so where is the EFCC on that now? Is it still an ongoing process, or you have succeeded in taking these people out of business?
No, if you look at the activities of our special task force on Naira abuse and forex malpractices, it has about four mandates. The first one is to check currency racketeering. The second one is to check abuse of the Naira. The third one is to stop the issue of dollarization. When I talk about dollarization, it means people who invoice for their activities in dollars in Nigeria, whereas the legal tender for Nigeria, within Nigeria borders, is the Naira. So they are carrying out their activities. I told you that arrests have been made. People have been charged to court. So that activities is ongoing. And I know the central bank has issued out a number of policies which have also impacted on the value of the Naira in recent weeks. But I want to believe that the activities of the EFCC in going after these racketeers have also helped the CBN in showing up the value of the Naira.
Are you also looking at the direction of these commercial banks?
The commercial bank have not ever left the purview of the EFCC. We have always put our attention on them. But the commission as it is work with facts and evidence. If we don't have facts, if we don't have the evidence that you have done something illegal, we can't just wake up and run after you. But if you have intelligence that they are doing something unethical and we are aware of it, we have a way of going about it.
All right then. Well, I'll hold the thought for a moment and we'll take a quick commercial break and we'll return to continue with our conversation. Welcome back. You're still watching Politics on Sunday. And my conversation has been with the Director of Public Affairs of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Thank you for staying with us, sir. When President Bola Tinubu assumed office, he declared a zero tolerance for corruption. And we saw that demonstrated when the now suspended Minister of Humanitarian Affairs was asked to leave the scene so that investigation will be carried out into the activities of that ministry. And since that time, we know she reported at the EFCC office, but so far we have not had much on that case.
Yeah, the reason why you have not heard anything lately is because that investigation is still ongoing. And when it's due for prosecution, if we have the evidence to proceed to prosecution, I'm sure the media will be fully informed.
So right now there is no evidence?
I'm not saying there's no evidence. I'm saying the matter is still under investigation. That is the reason we are not talking so much about it. But when the case has matured and we know we have the evidence to go to court, you will hear from us.
But now the question is how soon? Because there's already a vacuum in the Federal Executive Council. And as the Federal Executive Council stands now, each minister represents their states. And the position, or should I say now the slot of Cross River State is vacant at the moment because of this ongoing investigation. Is there a timeline when this will be concluded and everyone will know the fate of that matter?
Well, regarding the issue of whether there's a vacuum or not, that is a political matter. It's not within the purview of the EFCC. Ours is to investigate a matter that is important to us or a matter that we have evidence that needs to be investigated. Like I told you, we are doing our bit. You can't put a timeline on any investigation. I think the problem I always have with local media colleagues is that once you're on a matter, EFCC is on a matter, they are asking you when are you going to go to court. But if you rush to court and the matter fails, they will also come back to you and say you rush a matter to court when you know you have not finished your investigation. So I will simply ask the media to be patient with the EFCC. We are doing our work. When we believe that we have sufficient material to go to court, we shall proceed to court. Going to court is not just a fun activity. You only go to court when you believe that you have sufficient evidence to succeed in prosecution. If you are also looking at asset recovery, you go to court when you know you have what the material that you place before the court can get you the asset that you want to recover. So when the time comes, we will cross that bridge.
Yeah, speaking about diligent prosecution, this has also been an issue now when people analyze the operations of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. We have seen cases where the EFCC goes to court. I don't know, maybe you would say they rush to court with the matter before doing due diligence, and then it is thrown out of course. All of these cases are prosecuted with taxpayers' money. What's the EFCC doing to ensure that, the taxpayers also are also made to see reasons why the EFCC is doing what it has to do to prosecute corruption, and they also know that what they get in return would be that the proceeds of this corruption or these corrupt activities are recovered.
In your introduction to this program, you mentioned the fact that in 100 days, EFCC records 774 convictions. That is in 100 days. Yeah. I don't know of any law enforcement agency, under law enforcement agency in Nigeria that can achieve that record. And that is for 100 days. In 2023, we recorded over 1,700 and something plus conviction. The previous year, it was over 3,000 conviction. So in terms of conviction, our success rate is over 95% success rate in conviction. So if you have over 95% success rate in conviction, maybe you lose about less than 30% of your cases. I don't think that is a poor performance. And in any case, those matters that people say, okay, EFCC has lost, were not actually cases lost because we didn't have evidence to prosecute those cases. If you have been following prosecution of corruption cases in court, 90% of those cases that the EFCC supposedly lost were thrown out on technical grounds. Sometimes very flimsy reasons. It's either you didn't file your charge when you are supposed to have filed it, or one witness will simply come and recant. Just review some of those cases. You discover it was not essentially the fault of EFCC, or that the investigation was not conducted well. It was simply for one technical reason or the other that the case will be thrown out. So
looking at your success rate within the first 100 days, some people have said that if you look at all of these convictions secured, there majority of them are cases of advanced fee fraud, the Yahoo cases and all of that. That it seems like these are soft targets for the EFCC to go after.
No, there's no soft target as far as EFCC is concerned. Once you violate provisions of any of the law that the Commission is set up to enforce, the Commission can go after you. And the Yahoo people that you're talking about, these are the youths, Nigerian youths, that all of us are concerned about, that they are getting involved in cybercrime. Go to any of Nigerians' higher institutions, any campus that you go to, you see students abandoning their studies to go into cybercrime. And it's not healthy for us, because these are supposed to be leaders of tomorrow. Are they the kind of people that want to leave the leadership of this country too? So we have a responsibility to check the involvement of youths in cybercrime. We can't just say because they are involved in cybercrime and they are youths that we can overlook their involvement in criminality.
You've more conviction of cybercrime cases.
Even the conviction of the youth for cybercrime is not something that the EFCC is very, very happy about, because we know the implication of the conviction on their future. Once you are convicted of a criminal offense in Nigeria, there are so many things that you cannot do in future. For instance, you cannot vie for an election. You may not even be able to apply for a job in the public sector and be employed. But most of these youth don't know the implication of being convicted. They don't know the implication of getting involved in cybercrime. That is why the chairman of the EFCC, after he assumed office, said, beyond trying these people, I am also conscious of the fact that we need to provide alternative for them. If you have convicted them, post-conviction, how do we engage them? How do we empower them so that they don't return back to criminality? So he has talked about doing something. I don't want to announce it on this platform. When the time comes, he's working on something that will rehabilitate some of these convicted youngsters that are getting involved in cybercrime. So it's not as if we are focused on cybercrime, but we have a responsibility to survey this situation, protect these youngsters, because some of them don't even know the implication of what they are involved in. But having said that, we are also doing quite a lot in dealing with grand corruption, the so-called politically exposed person that interests the media when you are in them. We have done a lot of them. You mentioned the fact that we are in a former governor. There's also a former minister that we are in over the Mambila, something, and so many of them like that. So we are not overlooking any crime. Once we have information and we have done investigation, and the commission believe that the material that we have can sustain prosecution, we charge to court. But we won't rush to court until we are sure that we have evidence to prosecute.
Okay, let's talk about the politically exposed persons now. Make us understand the kind of pressure piled on EFCC anytime you go after these politically exposed persons. Because we see some sponsored protests, some pushbacks by these politically exposed persons to try to distract the EFCC or dissuade them from continuing with the case. What kind of pressure is the EFCC under?
The EFCC is not under any pressure at all. But I appreciate the point that you are raising. Once you arrest some of these politically exposed persons, there are people who believe that you are probably about to deprive them of their source of survival, because some of them share whatever they make from criminal activities with a lot of their hunger sound around them. Sometimes when we charge people to court, you find people coming to wearing ashwebi and others to demonstrate in support of people who have stolen their money. For instance, we arrested a former governor in Kwara State recently, and most members of his party stormed our zonal office in Kwara asking for his release. And the zonal commander has to address them based on the evidence that we have. Look at the quantum of resources that this man has allegedly stolen from the resources of the state. These are resources that should have been used to improve the standard of living of all of you. And here you are demonstrating in support of somebody who has allegedly stolen your resources. That is the dilemma that we have.
That's the pressure I'm talking about.
It's a pressure that we can deal with, but we are not comfortable with it because we still believe that a lot of people are not enlightened enough to realize that the resources of the state belongs to them.
But some people have said that the EFCC also gets calls from the presidency piling pressure to maybe hands off certain cases.
I'm hearing that from you. I'm not aware that the presidency has piled up any pressure on the EFCC.
And so some people inside the presidency,
that's what I'm saying. I'm just hearing that. You are a correspondent in Villabi. It's possible.
I'm a journalist, and I have my ears to the ground.
I've never heard that, and the chairman has also said it openly that he's not under pressure from anybody, and that the president has given him full support to run the EFCC the way he deemed fit, and he's doing that.
So is the president impressed with how Mr. Ola Olukoyede has carried on with the affairs of the EFCC so far?
I think that is the question that the president himself can answer. But from the body language, I think he's perfectly satisfied with what the chairman has done so far because he's supporting his economic agenda. I've just told you what we have done in trying to stabilize the value of the Naira. Without that intervention, I'm sure the value of Naira will still be less than what it is today. So he's doing quite a lot in trying to also complement the activities of other agencies of government to ensure that the economic agenda of the federal government is actually fulfill its objective, as so to speak.
Okay, lastly, before we go, another issue a lot of people have complained about is the mode and manner in which the EFCC carries out enforcement or arrest. In some cases, we have seen some cases where people are stopped on the highway and arrested. We have seen some cases where as the EFCC has had to break into some people's houses to effect an arrest.
The first one, people stop on the highway. EFCC can never stop you on the highway. Anybody that tells you that he was stopped on the highway by the EFCC is a life from the pit of hell. EFCC operative can never stop you on the highway.
You'll see some of these things on social media.
There are people who wear EFCC jacket and poses to be EFCC operatives that are not genuine operatives. And we have sent out a lot of press releases to announce that. So it's not everybody that you see wearing red jacket that belongs to the commission. So that is one. Secondly, concerning storming of people's homes and all that, I think in the past some people have complained over that, especially in cases of cybercrime. But when Ola Olukoyede assumed office, he said he was not going to allow that to continue, and he addressed it. There has been a change in terms of our process and procedure since that announcement. Night sting operations has reduced because he said no, he doesn't want that. But that does not mean that he has completely banned that, because we can't completely ban it. There are certain activities of Yahoo boys that you cannot detect in the daytime. For instance, most of them target foreigners, and there's a difference between time zone from Nigeria and abroad. If they want to speak with them, for instance, you are a cybercrime, you are a Yahoo boy in Nigeria, you want to talk to somebody in America. Yeah, there are times that you can do that.
Yes, quickly before we go, you have 10 seconds to answer this. These red jackets of the EFCC you're talking about are now a common sight on election day. We see them moving around to try and see if there are people buying and selling votes and all of that. But we hardly see prosecutions after these vote buyers are arrested. 30 seconds to answer.
No, there have been prosecution. There have been prosecution. I can attest to that. I know that in Ilorin, in Oshun, and in I think Ekiti also, there were prosecution. But the challenge that we had during that era was the fact that people complained. Some of the defense counsel complained that we didn't have the fiat of the INEC to do that prosecution. So we had to go back to INEC to get the fiat. And now we are doing the prosecution. All
right, then. Thank you very much, Mr. Wilson Uwajaren, the Director of Public Affairs of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Well, that's all on our program today. Do not forget you can see this episode again on TVC News YouTube channel. Also, subscribe, like, and share. Thank you for watching. I am Femi Akonde.